Imagine spending months planning the trip of your lifetime. You've booked the flights, you've saved up the money, you've told everyone you know, your friends, your family, your coworkers, that you're going to the World Cup, the biggest football tournament in human history. And then, one by one, the pieces start falling apart. Your hotel reservation? Gone. Your visa application? Rejected. Your ticket? Still in your hands, but the stadium it takes you to might not be as full as anyone expected. This is not a hypothetical. This is the reality unfolding right now, just weeks before the 2026 FIFA World Cup kicks off on June 11th. The 2026 FIFA World Cup was supposed to be untouchable. 48 teams, 104 matches, 16 host cities spread across 3 countries, the United States, Canada, and Mexico. FIFA president Gianni Infantino called it, without any hint of modesty, the equivalent of 1,000 years of World Cups at once. And for a while, the world believed him. But something has gone wrong. Something that nobody in football's corridors of power wants to say out loud. Hotels are being canceled in the thousands. Fans from entire nations are being locked out. Ticket prices have spiraled so far out of reach that even the host country's own opening match can't sell out. And there's a very real question being asked in hospitality boardrooms, government offices, and fan forums across the world right now. Will the seats actually be filled? Let's break down exactly what is happening, because this story has more layers than most people realize, and every single one of them matters. Start with the hotels, because this is where the story first broke into public consciousness, and it's where the alarm bells started ringing loudest. In the weeks leading up to the tournament, FIFA began quietly canceling thousands of hotel room reservations it had previously blocked across North American host cities. Not a handful of rooms, not a minor adjustment, thousands of rooms across every single one of the 16 host markets all at once. In Philadelphia alone, roughly 2,000 contracted room nights were canceled. In Vancouver, the number was staggering, as many as 15,000 rooms released in a single wave. Mexico City saw 800 cancellations. Boston, Toronto, and other host cities reported similar patterns. Every city, the same story. The CEO of the Greater Philadelphia Hotel Association called the cancellations disappointing and acknowledged that changes of this magnitude present challenges. That's the kind of carefully chosen language you use when you're trying not to panic people. But when 2,000 rooms disappear from Philadelphia alone, and similar numbers hit every other host city simultaneously, it's very difficult to stay calm. FIFA's official response? They pointed out, entirely correctly, that they routinely overbook hotel blocks for technical staff, team operations, referees, and officials, and that they release the excess rooms as actual numbers become clearer closer to the tournament. Standard practice, they said. It happens at every World Cup. But here's the interesting part. The scale of these cancellations is notably higher than what's considered routine, and FIFA has offered no specific explanation for why the numbers are so much larger this time. Industry analysts aren't buying the standard practice line at face value, because the hotel cancellations didn't arrive in isolation. They arrived alongside a wave of other signals, all pointing in the same direction. Demand for the 2026 World Cup, at least so far, is running below expectations. A survey conducted by the American Hotel and Lodging Association in late February found that nearly 20% of properties in applicable U.S. markets reported their World Cup bookings were running below projections. Jan Freitag, national director at CoStar Group, one of the leading hospitality data firms in the world, pointed to several factors. The expanded 48-team field means smaller nations have qualified that simply won't draw large traveling fan bases. Visa access has become a serious friction point, and the sheer geographical scale of the United States makes multi-city journeys expensive and logistically challenging in a way that previous host nations never presented. The hotels released those rooms. The rooms are now available, and yet the bookings haven't flooded in the way the industry hoped. So, where are the fans? To understand that, you have to understand what happened to ticket prices, because that's where this story gets even more uncomfortable. When the United States, Canada, and Mexico won the right to host the 2026 World Cup, there was genuine excitement.
Football's biggest tournament was coming to North America for the first time since 1994, and this time it would be bigger than anything the sport had ever seen. FIFA itself initially advertised the possibility of tickets as low as $21 during its bid campaign. $21 to watch a World Cup match. That was the promise. When actual ticket prices were released, the reaction was swift and furious. FIFA adopted what it calls variable pricing, a dynamic model tied to demand. In theory, popular matches in high-demand markets generate more revenue. In practice, it has meant prices climbing relentlessly. Between October 2025 and April 2026, the average cost of FIFA's 3 pricing categories increased by 34%. Prices went up for at least 90 of the tournament's 104 matches. The average cost of the cheapest group stage ticket is now nearly 50% higher than the previous World Cup record adjusted for inflation. Think about that for a second. The cheapest way to sit in a stadium and watch a group stage match at this World Cup costs half as much again as the cheapest equivalent ticket at any World Cup in history. And for the final, the cheapest ticket available on FIFA's official resale market is listed over $10,000. At the 2022 World Cup in Qatar, the premium tier of tickets for the final cost a fraction of that. Pep Guardiola, one of the most celebrated football minds on the planet, the manager of Manchester City, publicly criticized the costs. "Soccer is for the fans," he said. A simple statement, but it landed heavily because it reflected exactly what millions of supporters were already feeling. A European supporters group described the prices as extortionate. FIFA's decision to take 15% from both buyer and seller on any officially resold ticket added further fury. National associations traveling to North America began reporting genuine concerns about not being able to sell their full ticket allocations, and the numbers are starting to bear that out in uncomfortable ways. According to a document reportedly sent to local organizers in April, fewer than 41,000 tickets had been sold for the United States team's group stage opener against Paraguay at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles, which has a listed capacity of just under 70,000. The host nation's first match of the tournament, sitting at roughly 60% capacity with kickoff weeks away. If the host nation itself can't fill its own opening game, what does that mean for the matches involving smaller, lower-ranked nations? Algeria against Jordan, Curacao against Ivory Coast. These are real fixtures on the schedule, and right now, the evidence suggests some of them could take place in front of vast stretches of empty seats. But that's not the whole story, because there's another reason fans aren't coming, and it has nothing to do with ticket prices.
Here's where things take a turn that goes beyond money and logistics entirely. The 2026 FIFA World Cup is being hosted in the United States of America in 2026, and in this particular moment in American politics, that carries consequences the football world was not fully prepared for. On June 4th, 2025, President Donald Trump signed a proclamation restricting or limiting entry to nationals from 19 countries, mostly from the Middle East and Africa. 6 months later, on December 16, 2025, the administration expanded that list to 39 nations. Fans from those countries are, for the most part, unable to attend any World Cup matches being held in the United States. Let that land for a moment. The World Cup is often described as football's celebration of global unity. It is the one tournament that brings together nations from every corner of the earth, every culture, every background. And yet fans from 39 countries are effectively barred from attending matches in the nation hosting the majority of the games. Of the 48 nations that qualified for the 2026 World Cup, 4 are directly subject to the travel restrictions: Côte d'Ivoire, Haiti, Iran, and Senegal. Haiti's story deserves to be told properly. The Haitian men's team qualified for the 2026 World Cup, their first appearance at the tournament since 1974, over 50 years. Think about what that means for Haitian football, for Haitian people, for the enormous Haitian diaspora living across North America and Europe. Their team made it to the World Cup, and yet the vast majority of Haitian fans from Haiti itself cannot enter the United States to watch them play.
Haiti's acting consular general in Boston put it plainly. "The achievement is remarkable," she said, "and they are proud. But the celebration is shadowed by a reality no football nation should have to accept." Iran's situation adds another layer. The country initially boycotted the World Cup draw entirely after the United States reportedly denied visas to members of its delegation. The ongoing tensions between the US, Israel, and Iran, including an active military conflict, have cast a shadow over whether the Iranian squad will even participate in the tournament at all. As of right now, Iran's involvement in the 2026 World Cup remains genuinely uncertain. And then there's something broader, a climate of fear that's harder to quantify but very real in its impact. The Trump administration has conducted large-scale immigration enforcement operations in several World Cup host cities, including Los Angeles, the city set to host the final. Earlier this year, Customs and Border Protection published and then deleted a social media post indicating it would have a presence at the FIFA Club World Cup, which was supposed to be the dress rehearsal for this summer. The post was removed, but the message it sent to international fans was not easily forgotten. A Brazilian fan who has followed the World Cup since childhood and spent over $40,000 attending matches at the 2022 World Cup in Qatar spoke openly about his concern. He said the presence of immigration enforcement at or around stadiums will bring the atmosphere down, and he is not alone in thinking that way. NPR spoke to numerous fans from the US and overseas who said they had grown so frustrated with ticket prices, with immigration policies, with the general climate of uncertainty that they had made the decision not to attend the tournament at all. Now, what nobody is talking about is something that should have set off alarm bells much earlier than this. Last summer, the FIFA Club World Cup took place in the United States. It was framed as a dress rehearsal for the 2026 World Cup, a chance to test the venues, the logistics, the atmosphere. 32 of the greatest clubs in world football, Messi's Inter Miami, Real Madrid, Manchester City, Paris Saint-Germain, the biggest names in the sport, and across the 48 group stage matches, there were more than 1 million empty seats. Overall, attendance filled just 56.7% of publicly listed capacity. 3 of the 7 matches where less than a third of listed tickets were sold took place in venues that are scheduled to host World Cup matches this summer. A group stage match between South Korea's Ulsan and South African club Mamelodi Sundowns was played in front of just over 3,000 fans. 3,000 people in a stadium built for tens of thousands. You can argue that the Club World Cup is a different product, that fans travel for their national teams in a way they don't for club sides from continents they don't follow. That's partly true. But that tournament was also supposed to demonstrate that the United States could host major football at scale and generate the sellout atmospheres to sport demands. On that measure, it fell significantly short, and 3 of those same venues are now on the World Cup schedule. The question of whether the World Cup can avoid the same fate is being asked right now with an urgency that wasn't present 6 months ago. Beyond the travel bans, there's one more obstacle that landed with particular force, and most people haven't heard about it. As of April 2nd, 2026, the U.S. State Department implemented an expansion of its visa bond program. Under this program, citizens or nationals from 50 countries are now required to pay a bond of up to $15,000 before traveling to the United States temporarily, including to attend the World Cup. $15,000 as a deposit just to apply for a tourist visa. 5 of the 50 countries on the bond list are World Cup qualified nations: Algeria, Cape Verde, Côte d'Ivoire, Senegal, and Tunisia. Fans from those countries who want to watch their national team play in the United States must first demonstrate they can put up $15,000 on top of flights, hotels, and match tickets. For supporters from Algeria, Senegal, or Cape Verde, nations where average annual incomes are a fraction of that figure, this is not a barrier, it is a wall. FIFA worked with the Trump administration to create something called FIFA Pass, a priority visa appointment system for World Cup ticket holders. It sounds like a solution, but here's the part that got buried. FIFA Pass gives ticket holders a priority interview. It does not guarantee a visa. All applicants remain subject to exactly the same vetting procedures and restrictions as everyone else, and fans from travel-banned countries cannot use FIFA Pass to get around the ban. The ban still applies. The ticket in their hand doesn't change that. So you have a situation where a fan from Senegal buys a World Cup ticket, goes through the FIFA Pass system, gets a priority interview, and is still told no. And that changes everything about how we should be thinking about what this tournament is actually going to look like from the stands. Now step back from the individual stories for a moment and look at what's actually at stake here in the bigger picture. The 2026 FIFA World Cup was designed to be a statement about the size of football's ambitions, a statement about the sport's global reach. And in many ways, the tournament will still deliver. The matches will be played, the stars will be on the pitch, Mbappe will be there, Vinicius Jr. The football itself will almost certainly be extraordinary. But the experience of the tournament, the atmosphere, the color, the noise, the feeling of the world converging on one place, that is what's under genuine threat. A World Cup with empty seats isn't just a logistical disappointment, it's an image problem. It's the picture that travels around the world and defines the legacy of the tournament for decades. FIFA is expected to generate a record $11 billion from this tournament. But if the stadiums aren't full, if the streets of the host cities aren't buzzing with international fans, if the atmosphere doesn't match the scale of the occasion, none of that revenue tells the story FIFA wants to tell. And there's something deeper here too, something that goes to the heart of what football actually is. The sport became the most popular on earth partly because it belongs to everyone. Rich countries and poor ones, big nations and small ones. The World Cup is the moment when that belonging is most visible. When the fan from Dakar and the fan from London and the fan from Buenos Aires all converge on the same tournament and share something that transcends every difference between them. That spirit is being challenged right now in ways that no amount of dynamic pricing or FIFA press releases can fully address. Florida State professor Mark DiDonato put it plainly. Reducing access for traditional fans while demand remains strong at the upper end simply reconfigures who gets to experience the event. The World Cup becomes something for the wealthy rather than something for the world. So what happens next? Because this story isn't over.
Some things can still shift. Industry analysts believe demand will accelerate as the tournament gets closer, particularly for the knockout rounds, the semifinals, and the final, where the stakes pull in fans regardless of price. Historical patterns at previous World Cups suggest a late surge in purchases. The group stage matches involving smaller nations may well have sparse crowds, but the quarterfinals and beyond could yet deliver the spectacle FIFA is counting on. FIFA President Infantino is reportedly considering asking President Trump for a moratorium on immigration enforcement operations during the month of the tournament, essentially an informal guarantee that ICE will not conduct operations in and around World Cup host cities while the games are being played. A similar unofficial arrangement reportedly existed during last summer's Club World Cup. Whether something similar can be reached this time and whether it's communicated clearly enough to actually reassure international fans who've already made the decision not to come is another question entirely. The U.S. Travel Association has been lobbying hard against additional visa fees being implemented before June 11th. As of now, the standard visa fee remains at its existing level. If that holds, it removes at least one additional barrier. And FIFA has introduced standing room-only options in some venues to create more affordable entry points. Whether that's enough to fill the upper tiers of 70,000-seat stadiums in cities that don't yet have deep football culture is genuinely uncertain. Here's where we are. The 2026 FIFA World Cup is the largest sporting event in human history. That's not marketing, that's fact. 104 matches, 48 nations, 16 cities, an audience that will watch in the billions. On the pitch, the football will be among the best ever played.
But right now, in the weeks before kickoff, there's a gap between the vision and the reality. Hotels canceled into thousands with no clear explanation, ticket prices that have locked out the working-class fan who was always the heartbeat of the sport, travel bans that have told entire nations, including 4 qualified teams and their supporters, that they are not welcome, a $15,000 visa bond that no ordinary football fan from Senegal or Algeria could ever realistically pay. FIFA calls it unprecedented demand. The empty seats in Los Angeles tell a different story. The fans who spoke to NPR and decided not to come tell a different story. The 3,000 people in a stadium built for tens of thousands at the Club World Cup told a different story. Football has always survived its crises. The beautiful game has an almost supernatural ability to transcend the institutions that govern it and the politics that surround it. When the ball starts rolling on June 11th in Mexico City, it's entirely possible that the atmosphere builds, the crowds fill in, and by the time the final is played in late July, the whole world looks back and says, it was worth it. But the questions raised by this buildup will not disappear when the whistle blows. They will follow this tournament, and they will shape the conversation about what FIFA chooses to do next, and what kind of World Cup the world actually wants. So here's what I want to know from you. Do you think the 2026 World Cup will deliver the atmosphere it's promised? Do you think FIFA's ticket pricing is justified, or has the sport priced out the very people it was built for? And if you're one of the fans who wanted to go but can't, whether because of cost, a visa issue, or the political climate, tell your story in the comments, because these aren't just numbers. These are real people who love football. Drop your thoughts below. If this story matters to you, like the video and subscribe. We'll be covering every development of the 2026 World Cup from every angle, from the opening whistle to the final. This story is still developing. And as always, football never stays quiet for long. See you in the next one.